Hi, and welcome to another episode of Abilene People, our podcast here on BigCountryHomepage.com, where we talk to Abilene's most interesting people. And today, we're talking to Bird Thomas. Hi, Bird.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good.
So do you think you're one of Abilene's most interesting people?
I would hope I am.
I think you are. I don't know you well at all, but what I know of you is pretty interesting.
I think everyone should be interesting.
So
Wouldn't the world be fun if we were?
100%. 100%. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's start kind of in a different way than we start a lot of our conversations. I just want to do some quick hits, and then we'll circle back. We'll probably circle back to all of these. But you've traveled a whole bunch of countries.
I have. Last count, about 63.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to come back here, but your favorite?
Norway.
Okay. All right. Norway. So I want to make sure we talk about that. And I also want to say that you just came back from Vegas, not a different country, but a different vibe. Different planet. I love it. Yeah. Vegas is. But, what do they say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
My husband told me what happens in Vegas means you can't be a senator.
Wow. That's well put. Well put. So y'all are out of the running.
We are.
Okay. Boy, I wish we'd have sent some of our current senators there.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So, okay. So you just got back from Vegas and you went to the Sphere and you saw the immersive experience, Wizard of Oz.
I did.
Which I am so eager to hear about it because
you're going Christmas Eve.
I'm going
aren't you?
Christmas Eve. Yeah, I'm going Christmas Eve. So if my wife and daughter hear this, it'll be of course, I was going to say it anyway, but it's going to be a spoiler because my son and I splurged for the tickets, and it's a bit of a surprise. But they'll find out anyway. We can't keep it surprise. How was it? How was the Sphere?
It was indescribable. When you say you went to see the Sphere, you didn't just go to see it, you go to hear it, you go to smell it, you go to taste it, you go to touch it. I mean, they did everything. It was superb technology that all seemed like magic. And it seemed like I went to see The Wizard of Oz. My husband and I went. It was a birthday gift to me. Thank you, Sonny. And we were surrounded by a screen that was spherical and the size of 4 football fields.
Wow.
And this is not projection. This is individual millions of LED lights, and each light a pixel.
So it's just like a huge, massive LED high-definition screen.
And not 4D, 18D.
And you saw The Wizard of Oz, but not our grandpa's Wizard of Oz.
No.
Okay.
Grandpa would have spit his teeth out if he could have been there. It was just amazing. They have used AI masterfully to recreate what fit on a little by comparison screen at the time. I mean, for us in 1939, I wasn't here, but I'm told that seemed really big. And it was just this big compared to the screen they showed it on. So they had to completely fill out the scene. I mean, it wasn't just in a frame, it was surrounding us. And it was above us on the sides, in the front, and overhead. We had a real tornado. I mean, it was like you could smell it, and you could feel the wind whirling. And their wind machines actually create a vortex that's blowing leaves and dust, and they put fog in the air, and it's like you can't see, and you're trying to catch what's in front of you, and it's just so unbelievably exciting. And I've never seen anything like it, and don't expect to, really.
So I take it you liked it.
I did. Just a little bit. But that was just the show never ends, because on the outside, it's doing the same thing. There's a sphere inside another sphere, and the outside sphere you can see from all over Las Vegas. And we got a hotel room that overlooked it. So I sat in the window all night and tried to make videos of these incredible images that were showing on, I don't know how big the outside is. It's almost like the moon, it's just so big.
So you are an artist.
I am.
And you've done interior design and museum work and curation of museum artifacts, but you have a passion for art. And I read where somebody had said once about you that you made art accessible to people. You de-snobbed art.
Yes, thank you, Kathy.
I think that's a good compliment, huh?
I'll take it. Yeah.
So
because some people think art, and especially art museums, are snobby, and they shouldn't be made to feel that way. I mean, art is the great democratizer. It's like a partnership between you and the art, and it's nobody else's business what you think about it or how you interact with it or how you interpret it. So everybody is 50-50 with that piece of art. And I think staffs are getting much better in museums and art galleries and art experiences especially to make it friendly. And I think especially family friendly.
So I think you came by this passion for not just art, but passion for life. Honestly, because you remember the threat of, for example, specifically the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I think as a little bitty girl, you said, hey, we need to be quiet and pray because missiles are pointed at us.
Well, that was said, but Mrs. Ray said it. She was my fourth grade teacher.
Here in Abilene.
I was 9 years old at College Heights Elementary School. She got a call from Mr. Fielder, the principal, and said, children, I'll be back in a few minutes. I've been called to the office. And she went away, and she came back and said, we're in a crisis. And those missiles, there are missiles in Cuba that are pointed at us. And our missiles are pointed at them. And if you want to pray, now is a good time to be still, be quiet, and pray. And some kids started crying. We all put our heads on our desks and prayed and hoped that we got to go home to our parents that night because it was a crisis. And it might be the last time we were alive. I mean, we didn't know how long we had or if we were going to die, but she sort of prepared us for that eventuality. And so I'm still here, 9 from 72. That was 63 years ago. And I'm still on borrowed time.
So, Bird, for somebody that's not lived through anything like that, it almost sounds like a movie plot. It sounds surreal. You experienced. You're 9 years old, and your teacher is saying these things. Today's equivalent, I guess, would be these horrific school shootings and how children prepare. I mean, and of course we're recording this just a day after a very well-known political activist and speaker, very popular among conservative people, Charlie Kirk, was shot and killed. What's going on in our world? You think, well, wait, but look back then. You were living it then.
I was 9. And we were faced as a 9-year-old and then again as a 10-year-old, Kennedy was assassinated. And then shortly after that, Robert Kennedy was assassinated.
And right after that,
Martin Luther King was assassinated. So it's not a new thing. It's just, I think we have a lot of instantaneous knowledge about what's going on in the world, and nobody really digests it before we get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And a lot of instantaneous opinions, a lot of instantaneous statements that turn out to be untrue.
And a lot of fear mongering, too. I think we're in an era where fear is used as a currency to magnify the importance or unimportance of something.
Do you see when you travel abroad? I mean, 63 nations. That's a full passport or two. Do you see a lot of things that resonate with you relative to people who live in other parts of the world have lived through these kind of existential crises as well?
And some are there now.
Yeah. What?
In 2019, I got to go to Cuba on an artist visa. And that was a very eye-opening, wonderful and dreadful experience to see how the hopes of those people haven't worked out for them. And someone they thought was a wonderful leader and was going to lead them into prosperity pretty much crippled Cuba as a nation. And some people got fatter and some people got a little more than they had. Now they get an education, which is a wonderful thing, and they get a sort of health care. Not very good, but health care. But so many things have been taken from them. For example, go to a restaurant in Cuba and try to order beef. Can't do it. The government owns all the cows. Fat cats get to eat beef.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm
Nobody
sure
else does.
privileged people get to eat beef.
And the people, very well educated, seriously experienced people, make pennies. Well, dollars, actually. Like, I didn't meet this person, but I read a story while I was there, like a news article, about an emergency room physician. So here's a guy who's a doctor, and he's a specialized doctor, and his salary is the equivalent of $32 a month. He has a car, a Russian Lada, which I guess you can call it a car.
Yeah, yeah, that's generous.
It's generous. But he also had a son. And in some of the stores there were toys that could be purchased probably by tourists visiting. Because in Cuba, there are two different currencies, a currency for visitors and a currency for residents. And the residents go to stores that accept their currency and vice versa. So this kid sees a truck in the window of a tourist store, and he wants it so badly. And, it's a truck that maybe costs $30. And he asks his dad for it, begs his dad for this truck. And his dad just can't do it because his salary as an emergency room physician is $32 a month. But he has this car. And he has this idea. So he decides to, on his way to the hospital, he sees anybody weary walking, he'll pull over and give them a ride in exchange for currency. He could be shot for doing this. He could be put in prison for life or put in front of a firing squad for doing what he's doing because the government owns all the cabs. But he does it for his son, the love of his son. He makes enough money after many months to buy the truck. But the sacrifice that was made for that, how do you put a value on that father's love and what he risked to buy a toy for his son, which he could not otherwise? It turned him into a criminal by their standards. And everywhere we went, there were watchers. And those people just stood in darkened doorways or on corners and watched. And I don't know if they were tellers. I mean, I don't know who they told what they saw. You could only assume that they were telling someone. You couldn't buy many things in a store like where you want a bottle of water? Lots of luck. Don't have it. There was a guy selling contraband water out of an ice chest on the sidewalk at night, not in the day, but at night he sold water out of an ice chest. Almost anything we wanted, we could acquire at the barber shop. It was like this secret place where people went and placed orders and picked up orders and got things that couldn't be gotten elsewhere. They go in under the ruse of getting a haircut and come out with maybe an internet card in their pocket, maybe a bottle of water, maybe a loaf of bread.
So what do you say to people that complain about America? You say, well, look, I've been to some places you wouldn't want to trade.
Cowboy up. Just don't complain. We have nothing to complain about. Well, in that regard,
Yeah, well, I mean, we have it pretty comfortable.
we are comfortable, extremely comfortable. When you see the size of the apartments that they are living in, or the size of the space they're living in, it may not even be an apartment. I walked a lot while I was there, and I saw a lot of elderly people living in the doorways of their buildings. The doorways. It was, they have a term there for death by the building you live in. I don't know the term. There's a Spanish word for it, and the buildings are old and in terrible repair, and they frequently just fall down. And if you're in it, when it falls down, there's a word for that death because it happens frequently.
Well, you mentioned your favorite country is Norway. Tell me why.
Magnificence, for one. For another, the people are really, really beautiful and really, really content. They seem really satisfied with what they have. And that makes the whole vibe of the country really beautiful. They have extreme family values, like extremely important is the family and their children, and they rarely go on vacation because there's so much beauty in that country. If you live in the north of Norway, it's pretty damn cold. So you just go to the south of Norway for your vacation because it's beautiful and it's not that cold. If you live in the south of Norway, I guess you just have a staycay because it's beautiful. They pay a lot of attention to beauty. That's an important value in the Scandinavian countries. And I think maybe in some countries, beauty is not appreciated. It's purely function, and maybe they want the atmosphere and the environment to be depressing so that people who are oppressed with that kind of environment, I think, are much more easily manipulated. And I don't think you would find the Norwegians are very easy to manipulate, because they're what's left from the Vikings. And I don't think they take a lot of BS off the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think when we originally spoke about coming on the podcast and we were just chit-chatting about things, I think you mentioned a line to me about how the Scandinavian countries, they teach collaboration and they steer away from competition in the sense that we understand it as Westerners or Americans specifically. Talk about that, and how do you see that in their culture, and what are the implications?
I read a great deal about the culture before I went, and hoping that my experiences would validate what I had read, and it did. And so I was expecting to see that children are raised with a mindset of collaboration. They're encouraged to problem solve in groups, and sports are for fun. And I've noticed a great deal of like rabidity in sports around here, even in Little League Baseball. People just get nuts over gotta win, gotta win, gotta win, gotta win, gotta win.
You think about that. That's a great touchstone because it's not uncommon for somebody to hear a story about that, or even it makes the national news about a parent that goes enraged at their kid's sports game. You don't see that in Scandinavia.
They do it for fun. And I think in many cases we've forgotten about fun and how important that is to the human spirit. And there's a lot of pressure on kids today to compete, and not just compete for the sake of competition, but that if you don't win, you're a loser. And I think in the Scandinavian countries, the mindset is different. If you play, you're a winner. If you play and if you have fun, then everybody's happy.
Well, here, it almost seems like a trope, the participation trophies and how that's looked down upon.
Mm-hmm.
I sense you're just saying the value is in the collaboration and the participation. Mm-hmm. That's where the value is.
That's my value. It obviously isn't shared with all Americans, and it is shared in that country. There's you see it in the design field, which I'm very keen on, and I have a lot of perception about things that belong in the design world because for so long I belonged in the design world. And you see designers who are working and sharing ideas and building incredible buildings and incredible objects of beauty. And they're about, let's share this beautiful thing with everyone. So the buildings are beautiful on the outside. Now, I can relate this to the Sphere because I think Las Vegas actually does, they don't do it for the same reasons, but they do a really good job of sharing the beauty of a lot of things with the whole community, and the community being the world, because I heard so many different languages there. And they're sharing because they make money doing it. But I think this goes back to the hippie days, too. There's some things maybe you should just do because it needs to be done, and it nourishes other spirits, and it nourishes you at the same time. So, you're not losing anything by sharing it with others.
I'm so glad you went there because I wanted to, and you've described yourself, at least in one article that I read, as a hippie. And if you describe yourself as a hippie, you I think understand a certain appreciation of a certain sense of life and sharing and even altruism that somebody who would never describe themselves as a hippie may not understand. Yeah. I don't know if that's fair or not.
It's fair. When I was in high school, I was kind of a wannabe hippie because I liked the whole idea of it as I understood it. And then to go to school, I went to the University of Texas, and so I find myself in Austin, and I'm surrounded by that mindset. And I think I was in heaven because in those days, I went to school in 71, and everybody shared everything. It was that era where that was what was cool. And cowboys and hippies got along. They started the cosmic cowboy craze because the hippies started adopting things from the cowboys. And
isn't that almost it just seems like it's oxymoronic, but it's not at all. It was a very natural thing, the cowboys and hippies, as you say, getting along, but partnering together and enjoying life
they
together.
were collaborative. The hippies started wearing cowboy boots and cowboy hats, and the cowboys started smoking pot, and everybody shared everything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea, of psychedelic tie-dyed chaps.
Yeah, I never saw any of those, but I did see a bunch of cosmic cowboys during my time in Austin. And I think I'm glad I experienced that era. And for one thing, I know it can be done. And in the same vein, I'm glad I experienced Scandinavia because it was proof it can be done. And Scandinavia, I think a lot of people think of as socialist, and they have what's called a social democracy, and it's working. They pay very high taxes, and they don't mind because they see how much they get in return. Here, we're kind of on our own, with a few exceptions. But there, they know their needs are going to be met, and in the Scandinavian countries, the salary range isn't what it is here. It's a much, much narrower band. So what I feel that does is it makes it possible to be what you want to be. Here, I think a lot of people think they're how much money they make. And so they'll go for a profession that they're not necessarily interested in. They're going for it because they want to make that much money. And in those Scandinavian countries, school is free. And not free, it's paid for by those taxes. So you're not going to get paid a whole lot more to be a doctor than you are to be a high school football coach or a teacher. So be what you want to be and not be motivated by the money.
Are you concerned? I'm just talking to you just as somebody that's traveled a lot. You see our culture. You see, thinking about a little 9-year-old bird being told that, hey, this is an existential moment, for our country. Their missiles are pointed at us. And then coming, all the way to today. And so you've seen a lot. Are you concerned? I finally will get to the question. You ready for this? It's taken a while, isn't it? Are you concerned about our culture and the disparities in our culture between the uber wealthy and the 1% of uber wealthy is growing? I don't know that it's growing in terms of percentage of people, but it's growing in terms of their wealth. And then the very, very poor. It just seems like that disparity is getting bigger. What are your thoughts? Just as a
Does
observer.
concern me. I mean, I can't imagine a human being with a heart not being concerned. It's I don't see the need for that kind of uber wealth. Like, how many millions does a football player need to play football? He might need one or two because he's going to get beat up pretty bad. And he may end his career at 32 instead of at 65. But he doesn't deserve what they're paying some of them. And I see a lot of disparity in what you make being connected to who you are. It's not on merit. It's on if you went to the right university and your dad was in the right business or your uncle or your grandpa. I would rather see us base everything on our merit. Try to be a better person, not a richer one.
Love that idea of being a better person, not a, you can fill in the blank, not a, as you said, richer one. Maybe we could say not somebody who collects more things. Be a better
Right.
person.
How many Lamborghinis do you need? How many airplanes do you need? How many mansions do you need? And could you even give up one of them for a cause beyond yourself? I would hope so.
I want to go back to art for a minute. Did you start Art Walk here in Abilene?
Bill Wright and Lynn Barnett started it as an idea, a community building idea that would also bolster Abilenians' exposure to art. It's a great idea. And for a long time, it was a great idea that was working on a pretty small scale. And the main activities of an art walk was artists in a building that used to be Robert's photography studio, had little studios there, and they were open to the public at night, one Thursday night a month. And everybody could kind of gather up. It was kind of like, I don't know, in college we had these things called firesides at professors' houses, and you could just go and hang out with these scholarly people. And we said we rapped, we didn't talk.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
We rapped, and it was a different kind of rapping than you think of today, but it was just conversation. And so Art Walk was about art and artists and local art that was going on. So I didn't think it up. A lot of places have an art walk. It was great that Bill and Lynn had the vision to see that Abilene needed one. And then I had the good fortune to become the Art Walk Meister in, I think, about 2010. And my first art walk, I kind of started with a big bang, and I got a Bum Steer Award for Intergalactic Art Walk. And the idea of the...
Wait. Bum Steer Award as in Texas Monthly Bum Steer Award? So Bird Thomas got a Texas Monthly Bum Steer Award
for Intergalactic Art Walk.
Okay.
And there's a reason why that I'll get to. It was my philosophy that an art walk should be a tool of experience and an education. And I was noticing in 2010 how concerned we were about illegal aliens. And I thought, ooh, how funny would it be if we had an art walk that would expose our prejudice toward others. And we always describe ourselves as Abilenians as being really hospitable, friendly people. But we're not always. And I wanted to playfully point that out. And I spoke with Rudy Fernandez, and this is something that didn't actually happen, but I said, Rudy, would you do a booth down on Cypress Street and broadcast War of the Worlds?
No.
And have a spacecraft land in the parking lot of the convention center, and then there'll be a march down Cypress Street led by Martin Luther King. And so we didn't do the War of the Worlds thing. That was, I think the establishment at that time in Rudy's court.
Too much?
It was a bit much. But we did have the march down Cypress Street led by Martin Luther King. And before doing this, I was careful to interview most of the Black leadership in Abilene and ask, would this offend you if we were to do this? And to a person, they all said, oh, no, it's a great idea. and it'll bring a lot of attention to the plight. And so Isaiah Langford at the Plum Street Methodist Church said, I'll be Martin Luther King. And so his whole congregation came down. We colored them up with face paint, made everybody all different colors. We were pink ones and green ones and yellow ones and purple ones. And we had antennas and made signs to say, color is beautiful and be fair to all colors. And he led the march down Cypress Street with all these crazy ragtag alien beings and ended the march at Everman Park, and he delivered the I Have a Dream speech. And to me, the most wonderful point was made during the part of the speech where he says, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children won't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And he had 4 little children, and one was green, one was pink, one was yellow, one was purple, and they all had antennas. And apparently that was lost on Texas Monthly, or the person who who had
I'm wondering, why'd you get a Bum Steer Award?
well, because I think someone tattled and said I was disrespecting Martin Luther King.
Now I understand the angle. So it was out of context, not understood, didn't understand local participation. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
And so there were performance artists all over the street doing alien things. I had a sign to put in the window of every business who would have it saying aliens welcome here, and it was a little green guy with the peace symbol and the big eyes. And the whole point was just to ask people to think. Are we as hospitable toward others as we think we are? We're very nice to each other if we're white. Are we that cordial with the Hispanic community? Are we that cordial with the Black community? 15 years later, we're doing better. And this was just a moment for the community to think about it. And almost all the art walks had a core, deep meaning if you chose to think about it. For example, is we did one called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. And it was done during the month that celebrates or brings attention to domestic violence. And Susan King was our state representative at that time, and she was famous for her red high heels and red jackets. And the logo for this movement was a red high heel. So Susan King led a march down Cypress Street with some very high-profile Abilenian men walking in her shoes. I had rolls and rolls of duct tape, and I had a friend at Goodwill, and he collected high heels for 6 months. And, of course, none of them really fit the men who were asked to wear them, but these guys were great sports about it. We had coaches and councilmen and mayors and preachers and lots of guys who were exemplary role model guys. What's the right word? Humbling themselves to do this for this cause of standing up to domestic violence. So Susan, we meet at the Paramount and start taping shoes to everyone's feet. And she teaches them how to walk in the shoes long enough to get to the park without breaking their necks. So they're all having a good time. At the end of it, we have a big red chain as the finish line across the walk, which wasn't a mile, but it was a short walk. Robert Briley was a councilman at the time, and in his high heel shoes, he starts humming Chariots of Fire, and he rushes toward the red chain with his arms thrown back, and he breaks the chain. And when he breaks the chain, which we didn't know he was going to do, but there was another, like a flash mob called Break the Chain. And Cindy Munshank brought all her dancers down, and they were all dressed in red and had red things, and they break into this dance of Break the Chain when he crossed the finish line like that.
I love it. I love those two art walks with so much kind of value perspective.
They were all
race
that,
relations.
They were all that way.
Appreciation of women. Two very normal topics of conversation in our world and culture at large today: race relations and women. So how do you think we're doing? Are we doing better?
We're doing better. We're slow, but we're doing better. But there's one thing about this walk a mile thing I want to say before we change the subject, and that is I always had a coloring table inside the Center for Contemporary Arts for kids who didn't want to make something but wanted to participate artistically. And so there were line drawings of high heel shoes and lots of red crayons on this table. The morning after that art walk, now Myra Dean is one of the people who, Susan King gave a testimony of her experience with domestic violence. Myra gave a testimony about domestic violence. Several high-profile women volunteered to address the crowd at the end of this walk. And the thing that was very moving for me was the next morning when I'm cleaning up the mess, I find a line drawing on the coloring table and written in pencil, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because it's been a very long time. I don't remember her exact words, but I'm 12 years old and I was raped by my next door neighbor. I've never told anyone. And because of seeing these high-profile men stand up for women and hearing the likes of Susan King, Myra Dean, saying it's okay to say something, we must stop this. And these men will help us. They're our brothers, they're our uncles, they're our fathers. They will stand up for us, but we have to say something. And she said it that night. So when I found that, oh my God, it gives me chills now to just think of the feeling I had when I picked up that paper and I carried it to the police department. She named the boy or the young man who had raped her as a 12-year-old. And so I took it to the police department.
To your knowledge, was her story taken seriously?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's the last I heard of it.
Well, we can talk about it as little or as much as you like, but I want to just do a touchstone of reality that in our world today, I can appreciate you saying we're doing better, but at the same time, probably a very bad form for me to state my opinion. I should be asking yours. It just seems to me that we have a long way to go in race relations and how we treat women.
Sure.
I mean, we're recording this in an era where ethics in regard to how men treat women are being swallowed up in the politics of how men treat women. And I don't know if there's even a question coming. I just think it's disgusting and a threat to so many women, young ladies, girls, to assist a narrative that says it's ever okay to mistreat a woman with either domestic violence or sexually. And I think that's out on the table now in our culture today.
It's on the table. And I really do think we're doing better because now some people are enraged about it. Look at the 1950s. It was normal. Nobody was enraged. It was like, suck it up, sister. That's how it is. And the fact that we're enraged about it today, the flags are flying half-mast now because, as everyone knows, Charlie Kirk was shot. And so, we didn't put the flags down when the politician from Minnesota, who was female, was shot.
An elected official.
Yeah, no big deal. Expendable. Or it might seem that way to young girls, young women, looking at all those flags at half-staff.
And to me, that's the thing. It's hard to talk about without being characterized or sounding as if it's political.
I know.
It's ethical, isn't it?
It is. But the fact that our heart rates are rising, I mean, I can feel it. Yours is, mine is. The very fact that we're so upset about it, I think is a good sign. 50, 60, 70 years ago, wouldn't blink an eye.
Well, let's end on a happier note, shall we?
Sure.
So, favorite food or place you have traveled to that if you could go again and eat that food, what would it be?
Boy, that is really hard for me because I like to try new foods and I like to go to new places. I rarely want to return until I've been all the way around.
Okay, fair enough. So what's some of your favorite dishes from around the world?
Some of the most fun was eating a guinea pig. It didn't taste that great, but it was so fun to experience.
Poor little guinea pig.
I know, he had his little teeth.
I'm just thinking of our friends who had a guinea pig named Bob.
I know, Ginger.
Poor guy.
I know, all the little classroom pets, but I think it's great fun.
Where was this?
In Peru. And I ate raw horse meat in Hungary. That was fun. I love horses. I'm a passionate lover of horses, but the experience of eating what they consider a normal thing and we would consider a horror, there we also ate whole sheep's head was put on the plate, with the eyes. And things like that really.
Now, Bert, let me tell you, I was thinking you would say, when I went to Bruges and I had the Belgian chocolate.
No.
You're going sheep's head, raw horse meat, and guinea pigs.
Yeah. I think that's.
Well, you love the experience.
I do. I'm a collector of experiences, and I am constantly craving new ones. And if we're here at home, I would say Mexican food would be my go back to. But if I'm out in the world, I want to try something that I would never even see or hear about here. There's so much out there we don't know.
Where are you going next? Do you know?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
So when will you decide that? Just a day before you leave or
no.
a year before you leave?
Probably a year before I leave. I would love to go to Tibet, but I think I'm going to have to wait a bit because I don't think I would get to see what I want to see if I would go there now. I missed the window, and I'm going to have to wait for the window to come again.
Well, because it's your podcast off camera, just remind me to tell you my story of flying into Lhasa. It was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. But I hope you get to go.
I hope so too.
It's stunning.
I hope
beauty.
So too. It's on my bucket list, and I like stunning.
And you certainly, it's a great example of a place that is stunningly beautiful and shockingly dangerous. Watch what you say. Watch who you talk to. Watch what you say when you talk to anybody.
It's true. There are watchers.
They are watchers. What resonates with me. Okay, Bird Thomas, what a wonderful treat. I love to close every podcast with this kind of question. What would you love to see in Abilene over the next 10 or 20 years?
More fun. We're doing a good job now. When I was a little kid, until I was about 12, 13 years old, I had a lot of fun because I was a horse kid. And so I just, like kids ride bicycles today, I rode my horse all over creation with my cousin who had a horse too. And we were feral. And I had fun. And then as a teenager, I bought into there's nothing to do here. And that's because I didn't have a driver's license or my own house. And now there's plenty to do here. And in great part to Abilene's art community, which loosened the poop chutes of the community that used to be pretty tight. And more great venues are opening up. Thank you, Tim Smith, for doing what you've done to show Abilene what a little vision could do and how far a little vision could take us. You know, you're seeing it downtown now, and a lot of people are not happy that we're spending some tax dollars sprucing up downtown. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about the downtown.
I'm pretty happy about it because if our downtown can thrive, and it's trying to, people are wanting to live down there. People are living down there. When I was a child, on Sunday, if you went downtown, tumbleweeds were rolling across Sidewalk Street. Literally.
Yeah.
And today, if you go downtown on Sunday, you see people with their baby strollers and their little kids, and they're looking at the sculpture downtown, and they're playing in the fountain and looking at the parks.
Tumbleweeds, it's because the Paramount's having an immersive experience.
Oh, don't we wish?
And tumbleweeds are flying through.
Do you hear that, George?
Yeah.
So I think Abilene's on track. I know our culture is to move real, real slow. And that used to annoy me that we were so slow. And from a historical preservation perspective, we are blessed that we were so slow during the 50s, 60s, 70s. We didn't tear down our lovely, charming, enchanting old buildings. And with the vision that's coming in, moving in, or being born here and staying here, if we have a vibrant downtown, people want to visit.
Yeah, I'm sure you're a big fan of the Abilene Heritage Square.
Of course. I mean, I grew up, it was Lincoln Junior High, and of course, my dad went to high school.
Before that, yeah, so to say before that, it would have been Abilene High.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and of course, that's all private money.
Mm-hmm.
So love having the conversation. Need to go and have Mexican food or raw horse meat or sheep's head. Or
let's have a guinea pig for lunch.
A guinea pig, yeah. But love the conversation and love your perspective. You know, I think that there's so much that you said that is kind of life lesson stuff, you know, and you just said it with great cheer and great hope.
I am very hopeful. I think as human beings, we are innately good, and if we strive to be better human beings, this is going to be an awesome place to live. It already is.
Well, you heard it right there. One of Abilene's most interesting people, Bird Thomas, no doubt about it. And thank you for joining us. And a big shout out to our ace producer, Travis Corrigan, TCB, taking care of business. That's what we say about Travis, and he takes care of our podcast. Really appreciate all the work he does. I'm your host, Danny Sims. It's been my privilege to share this conversation with Bird Thomas, and I look forward to seeing you here next time. where, rumor is, an Abilenian who will soon be 100 years old, whose father escaped the Holocaust, will be our guest. So we'll see you here with her, and that hopefully is happening in the very near future. See you next time here on BigCountryHomepage.com, Abilene People.